Without further ado, I'd like to introduce our first Motivational Monday speaker, Coach Russell Vanlandingham. He is a former Small College Coach of the Year, 9-time conference champion, and I can tell you, because my son's been a part of this program, he changes lives every day. Please give a warm welcome to Coach Russell Vanlandingham.
It's like a big game right now. It's big. I've never done this, so this is new. Now, when I say I've never done this, I'm going to go right to my points here. Because I'm used to going, when Joe asked me to do this, I'm used to going to speak to teams. When I was out of coaching, I've been out of coaching for 3 years, just really good and started last year, which led to what me and Joe had. But I've never done this. So there was a little anxiety just because you guys are successful. You understand. You're older. You're experienced. When I go talk to church, when I go talk to kids, or if a coach calls me, that was easy. So I've over prepared some. I've put some points on the board because Joe asked me for a call to action. But I'm better. I'm going to use this as a guideline. I'm better. In all honesty, talking from my heart. After 21 years of experience of watching what winning and losing looks like, for all levels, in my own down common times over the last couple of years, and what I had to do to get to this point, I am blessed. I am blessed to be here. I'm excited. This ain't Monday. I always tell people, what do you mean it's Monday? No, it's today. And there'll be a point in my speech today where you'll understand why I think that. Some dramatic events that changed my life. That led me to get back into coaching. That led me, hopefully, into bigger and brighter things for Uncommon. Not only with basketball, but with speaking, life coaching, some things that I want to do. But again, the title today for me is taking the Uncommon approach. Me and Joe met a couple of times. He just said, be yourself. So that's an easier thing for me. But I had to do something for you guys to give you guys what he says calls of action at the end of the speech. But I'm going to talk to you more about my journey. He's already told you my career highlights. This is my 21st year of coaching at all levels, from Division I to Division III to now high school, TMI. And I was speaking to my new friend, Alan, over there with the shirt that I like. I want to wear Alan's shirt after this. But at TMI, it was a good chance for my kids to go to school there and education. But it gave me an opportunity to use the gym a lot, run things, do some things. I had a vision to run conference, and it still unfolded. This summer, what Joe saw was my first summer. And I had a plan, and we'll get to that point, of what I wanted Uncommon to be and why I wanted to create this for kids around the city of San Antonio, Boerne, wherever. Because I still think there's a market, and there was a market. And these kids taught me that he's talking about his son. These kids taught me again that human beings are still human beings. Because I can't stand that life has changed, times have changed. You can't get. No, that's for a safe way of not doing anything with your life that means something. Yes, I do want to mean something for kids. I do want to create a brand. So, I'm going to give you my background. My background will be quick. I started at McMurray University. Anybody know where McMurray is? Abilene, Texas? One person? That's fine. It's D3. It's where I played my career. I was a small college player. I was always a captain, always kind of that deal. I got to tell my man, he may give me a job after this, hopefully, if this doesn't work out. But, and by the way, I told him on the phone, I can't believe Joe was paying me to speak. My wife, she countered the offer. And because of how many lectures I did in my house, she countered the offer about speaking. She couldn't believe I was coming up here to speak, saying, hey, I'll pay you to listen. My background was at McMurray. When you're young and starting out, at McMurray University, we won 79 straight conference games. I've never had that. An older guy told me, and I was young, pumped, not believe, and there was nothing wrong with that. Well, I mean, I knew what we were doing. It wasn't for everybody. I was kind of sheltered because my boss, I did a lot of the grunt work, but my boss took the meetings. I didn't have to deal with anything, so I didn't hear anything negative. But we won 79 straight games to start my career. I thought that's the way it's supposed to be. I mean, it's really hard to do. Really hard to do. Those kids, what they were doing were uncommon back then. And what we were doing was, and we'll go over key points, was the process of being great. And recruiting and all, and everything that we did during that time was tremendous. And an old guy told me, because I was still complaining about a habit or something And he said, Coach, y'all are 20, and he was right. You're 27-1. You need to enjoy the moment right now. You may never be 27-1 again. And he was right. I was close at Olu at the end of this. He was right. You may never be, and when I was young, I forgot to do that. But here's another thing about McMurray. That's the only reason I bring it up. Is I ain't failed yet. There's no failure yet. There's no knockdown yet. I had this high school, college enthusiasm that's in all of us. I hadn't had nobody tell me no. I hadn't had anybody say you're not good enough for this job. So we were winning. I thought this is the way it's supposed to be. There was no real challenges yet as a young coach. It was just me. I could work as hard as I wanted. It's something I love. Every day waking up, I didn't care about other people's thought, and I still really don't. That's part of the reason I've probably lost some jobs. I care more about just the kids I'm with and the people I'm with. But I hadn't failed yet. When I tell young people it was different about McMurray, I didn't really have to go through that. That process of somebody or whatever, the external things which we'll talk about, and the learning. So I went from McMurray to West Texas A&M. I was the most uncomfortable I've ever been at West Texas A&M. I worked for a Hall of Famer. Leaving there, looking back 10 years ago, for you guys that are leaders, some of you guys are employees in here, employers, I don't know. But if you're a leader, I was really uncomfortable. That's where I learned the most. I did a lot of things I didn't understand. I said, like, for example, Rick Cooper from West Texas A&M would say, no, you go figure out their admissions and transcript. I said, Coach, I took it to the director of admissions. He's got so-and-so GPA. He's eligible. I said, you learn how to do it. And I used to get on, man, what the hell? Well, he was teaching me one valuable thing. That admissions counselor, when we're playing for a championship, and they call us and say the kid's ineligible, she doesn't really care. She's off at 5 o'clock. So you better learn. So learning at that point, because I just won 79 games, I thought I knew it. There wasn't a boss that was smarter than me back then. I wasn't. So he taught me how to learn in uncomfortable situations. And I realized even the stuff I don't like computers and phones, I can't hide from anymore. Learning was really, really something that improved me down the line. I didn't know it at the time. I was uncomfortable. But I got comfortable being uncomfortable, and that's probably the most, and looking back, it taught me how to deal with things in the future going forward. Was working for Rick Cooper during those 4 years. He was a hard boss. I mean, he's the reason. I'm sure Nick Saban has a pretty demanding. But he's in the Hall of Fame for a reason. To win consistently is really tough. Being consistent in business, in my opinion, is tough. So he taught me some things. You figure it. You be a proponent of your own success is what I learned from that situation. And then for the first time, I came down, moved back down to South Texas. I'm a San Antonio boy. I'm sitting here in the home of the legendary 2-3 Stan Leach, my man, Coach Leach. But I came back to Texas State, Division I. The first, and I am proud of this. I didn't have a name. I wasn't a big-time player. There was no opportunities. I had to win 3 championships at McMurray, in my mind, to get the opportunity to D2. I had to work. There was things, you had to work at it. I loved it, but you had to work at it. And I tell my wife, who's in real estate, I said, it wasn't, you act like, she goes, it's so natural for you. I said, no, there's a lot of things I don't like. I have to have an attitude about the things I don't like. That's because all my teams have taught me that. The ones that have lost and the ones that won championships, they're 2 separate entities, and we're going to talk about that. When I came to Texas State, and I'm bouncing around, I got some notes here that got off the timeline. I told you I'm not very good at that. I'll talk from the heart. Texas State's the first time I really understood what losing looks like. See, I was used to winning. We won 2 championships at West Texas A&M. I won 5 at McMurray. So in my first 9 years of coaching, I had 7 championships. I know what that looks like. I mean, I know what organization looks like. I know what, hey, confrontational conflict is good. It is good. We got to be, when you play about the young people nowadays, that's why I started my comment. We'll get to that point. But we also get involved too much with young people. You look around, I studied real hard. So comment is an awesome thing. Hopefully it can get to a place where we attract more and more families like this with Ronaldo's that seek that type of environment. Because it's good for, we're still human beings. I don't believe that time to change. But at Texas State, losing the first time I started realizing what losing looks like. All my championships, I expected that. And for me, guys, losing at Texas State was really humbling. I was still working just as hard. I just didn't know any other way. I mean, I wasn't in sometimes positions I thought they were strength, whatever. We recruited good players. We recruited probably for Texas State, 3 top 40 classes, which hadn't happened in a lot in Texas State. So physically, we were good. But what did we spend a lot of time doing? I bet y'all can answer this. Y'all been through. We spend a lot of time in our day around round tables like this, talking. The easiest thing to do is complaining. Oh, this kid does. He ain't doing this or he ain't doing that. Now before that, we're winning. We'll bring him over here. Get the kid some film. Give him every opportunity to be successful. Give him a program. Work on his skills. Go tell him that. What are we doing? Now, I was thinking that. I wasn't saying that. I didn't have, we just moved family. I'm not going to tell my boss already. I already had that kind of personality. I'm in Division I, and there's some opportunities in Division I. But we weren't telling the kids that. We were constantly changing our formula instead of making them change, which was very common. And that's why there's only one champion. Now, I just got to win. So winning, we didn't do that. Now, we lost kids. But we gave every kid a blueprint to be successful. At Texas State, we had a blueprint, but we spent a lot of our week talking about problems, no solution, and talking about, in sports, the player. Hey, this player doesn't do that. Well, go tell them. Make them go. I wasn't an A-B study hall guy. I was an individual guy. Maybe Joe talked to me. I appreciate. I'm not an X and O guy. I don't know 1,000 plays. I've always just tried to deal with the person, the kid, whether he's from deep Louisiana or has billions of dollars, and he thinks there's still a core to that human being. And it's a matter of them all coming together and playing. So losing taught me that some common traits, complaining is really easy. Really easy. Doesn't take anything. Finishing, I say this to my teachers, finishing in the bottom half of the conference, why are we going to go for 4 months and not go through any conflict and waste 4 months of our lives? Whether we finish on top or bottom and not maximum, why are you even playing the sport? I tell my teams that now. Why are you wasting 4 months of your life doing something? I say, it's going to be really easy to finish in the bottom half. It's really, really hard to be a champion. It's really, really hard to sustain success. It takes conflict. It takes growth. It takes being uncomfortable. And when you get comfortable with that, you realize some of the rewards of that too. But it also is a lot like, and I'll use this son for example later when we get to that point. But Texas State taught me, a valuable thing, and I was humble that I wasn't used to losing. But I know why we were losing. We were just doing the same thing over and over again. And the worst part about Texas State for me was, and this is carried over, this started my vision of uncommon back then. The kids never had to change because the times have changed. Hey, the times have changed. I hear it from my boss. It's like, bullshit. They're still human. The phones have gotten more. Yes, I get that. But I've seen too many kids overcome. Too many people do things they're not supposed to do. Too many kids that he ain't good enough to win with that I've won plenty with because of being uncommon, I guess, nowadays. Which it is uncommon. So, I ended up leaving Texas State. And I took a job called Vanlandingham University in San Antonio, my hometown. Man, I was going to be Buddy Meyer. I was going to be, some of you guys might know some of these references. Buddy Meyer was a national champion, NAI legend. It was an NAI school. But we had no money, no gym, no vision. The student life director, I don't mind saying that now because he ain't going to, that was a little weasel and scared of all every little bit. But it was kind of good for me because at Orlando Lake, he just stayed out the way. Those first few years, he didn't care. He didn't know what athletics looked like. And so it was perfect for me because I could build. They just stayed out of my way. What can I use this room? What are you doing? There's just boxes. Sure. What are you going to? You're going to build a lot. What? The kids have to change. Or that's how far they had to come. But when I took Orlando Lake job, everybody said, "You nuts? You're at Texas State. Y'all gone to win 18 games." And it wasn't. He said, "Nobody. There wasn't that many people that won that job." I spent 15, 16 years learning. I wanted to be a head coach. I
thought I knew enough at that point, good and bad. And I think it was time. I'd been in schools for bigger jobs, finished second, yada, yada, yada. At that point, I didn't feel like failure, though. I mean, it felt good to be in some of the big jobs, top 2. I just didn't get it. That happens. I didn't feel like a failure. I didn't feel that part of my life. But, so, at Our Lady of the Lake, all my peers, after 15 years in business, said, don't piss the nuns off. And win 6 games. Period. Now, my mind every day, I had to start writing down things, putting up. Now, I don't know how you guys get motivated, but I had to write stuff down because that wasn't my vision. I didn't take it just to get, that wasn't I wanted to be there forever. That was at that time what I thought was going to be. So I poured my whole heart into Olu after Texas State. Very similar to how I started my career, with childlike enthusiasm. It was my first head job. I mean, Murray was my first assistant job. We were going to change things. So here's the problem, though. Everybody thinks it's a comment at an all-women's school. And let's be honest, in my sport at the college level, at least at the collegiate level, there's an African-American culture that has never been on the campus. There was one black kid on Our Lady of the Lake's campus. I had to change more than the perception. I had to bring in kids from different parts of the world and have them integrate in a school that was 87% Hispanic. So there were some other challenges, but it was fun. And it was exciting. It was a challenge to me. But again, every day, every month, I don't believe that my mind as a human being didn't go home and think about it is, hey, don't piss the nuns off, win 6 games. Make sure your kids are in class. So, my first recruiting class at Our Lady of the Lake, every single kid, similar to how I started. Now, this is not a knock on my own son played for Uncommon. Every single kid was a kid that wasn't good enough. All right, what are you talking about? You got to need a sponsor. You need better players. That ain't my vision. I fired a guy earlier this year on Uncommon. I'll talk about when we get to that because it's already out there. That market's already out there of people always hugging and talking about habits. You can't talk about habits. You gotta hold people accountable. You gotta care about them, and then see what goes from there. But at Olu, my first year we won a championship. I mean, I'll backtrack. First year. Now we started 2-9. Guess who the first people I went to play? I drove a little bus all the way up to North Oklahoma to play the #1 team in the country. And the other thing college coaches tell you is schedule light when you start a program so you look like a winner. Schedule easy. I scheduled four top 10 ranked teams in my first, I went to play the #1 team in the country like an idiot in my first game with a bunch of kids that really they're 9 freshmen, kids out of the church league in San Antonio, the YMCA, the Texas State, I'm serious, the Texas State Rec League, we look like the Bad News Bears. But these kids were tough. They wanted an opportunity. They were human beings. They wanted an opportunity. They were bubble kids, good high school players, but bubble kids. So they were going to do this. We lost our 2 best players in the first 2 weeks of preseason. My only 2 real talented kids. They said, screw that, I'm going to go somewhere else. So we went up to Oklahoma to play the #1 team. Why? Because for me personally, I was selfish, but I wanted our kids to see what we were going to be. That's what the very best at your level looks like. Why not? I wouldn't care about wins right? But that's the very best of what. Now we got to start working on the process to see. And we played hard, and we lost by 38, and it was a long ride home. And why am I bringing up this Olu? And after 2-7, I was balled up in the corner. I kept crying in my bedroom or something with my wife. She went and said, "What have I got myself into?" And I said, "Wait a second. I'm telling these kids every day, block out all external factors, because you're going to walk around here and they're going to tell you how great you're doing because they had intramurals before you, and that's fake love. They had intramurals before you. It is saying you're good, you're guys fan because their spirit was good. We're not doing. We're going to keep chipping away at the process. And I promise you guys, because I'm doing it too. They always had to see I was a human being too, as hard as I coached. I said, I'm promising you kids. Because you don't think I'm a human being too? Because every day in my brain, you know how easy it would be for me to say, this is a first-year program. This is a content. I got 0 scholarships in an 11 scholarship league. You think that would be so easy for me to do, make me feel better. I wouldn't have no stress, I'd barbecue, whatever. Now, I'm not going to do that for y'all, so y'all don't do that for me. When we leave this gym every day from here on out at 2 and 7, we just come back and focus on the process. I'm going to make sure we have film to get you better. Now, I can't force you, but we're going to do things that create success. But I remember during that time, they always heard me about everything that got tough, to say, hey, the same doubts are creeping into my brain, guys. I get you. You're not supposed to do this the first year. You're not supposed to just keep chipping, boom, boom, boom. Because I could easily, again, say, like we all do in life, just say, man, it's first year program. We didn't have a gym yet. We're in the locker room. And I said, I'm not going to do that. No, that's not living. That's not living. I'm not going to do that. So in building all these teams, all the stuff I learned, I went back to the process. I got those kids' external factors, good and bad, out of their brains. I got their record out of their brains. I said, what matters is confidence. These were learning experiences. As long as we're improving, confidence, as long as we're improving. And trust me, I'm being real nice about it. Joe saw me coach a little bit. I had high demands on what they could do. They were showing me then, why am I bringing this up? They were showing me then that uncommon is reality. It wasn't uncommon to get back on the line and go 20 times. I would run 20 reminders, which were 16s, which are hard. 20 reminders because we gave up 20 layups when we were 2 and 7. And there were some kids that bugged, but there were some kids that stood, but they would run. And this is just remember that point when I get to why I built Uncommon when I was watching my son what they're telling these kids nowadays. They would run 20 like this because they kept remembering. Now we were still 2 and 7. We lost the next game, got a little closer. That number 1 team came and played us at our place. They wanted to play us home and home, and we lost by 1 on that second shot.
Whoa.
Well, that's when I knew, hey, these kids we came a long way in just 3 weeks.
Yeah.
Because of habits. They didn't really understand how crazy I was, because every missed cut, everything they did, we had to do it the right way because we could control that. Remember that? We controlled that. We didn't control that we were a first-year program. We didn't control that we had a convict name that people made fun of. We didn't control that. We walked in the gym together. We knew what we controlled. And eventually believed in that. We stood there at Texas Western, the home of the 2007 national champ, my first year in 2009, and we missed a shot at the buzzer to win the whole thing. We became conference championships, but because of a tiebreaker record, we didn't get to go to Kansas City. That started our journey. 3 years later, I had to go this whole time, by the way. You got to have a goal. You have an outcome. You can't focus on that. We'll talk about that. My goal was before I turned 40, I was going to win a conference championship as a head coach, not an assistant. 12 days before I turned 40, the good Lord, the universe, whatever you want to call it, and it was 3 hard years. We won a conference championship, cut down the nets at our little lake. It was awesome. We were the first champion. I talk to these kids all the time about being the first champion in school history, and she'll never forget that during that journey. So they were doing a lot of things, and they were the probably kids that showed me most about being uncommon and what it means. Okay, that's the fun part. That's the part of my career where I did it. After that, like any other human being, external factors bother me. I was supposed to get scholarships in. Life doesn't give a shit about you. I was supposed to get a locker. So my peers this time did affect me. My peers told me, hey, you've raised $100,000 and you've won 2 championships in your first 3 years. You think that idiot? No, he thinks you're fine. That was taking me 90 hours a week. My kids were growing up. My marriage was suffering. And things were happening. And I knew that when I looked in the mirror. And I was like, so all those things that I was talking about, I started focusing on only external things. But I wasn't going to leave. If I could go backwards, you can't reset. I would have got a job after I was Texas Coach of the Year. And all those times we went from 21 to 23 to 27 wins. And we were really, and with no scholarships, people knew, my peers knew what those kids were doing. They knew the talent we had. The talent's overrated. Those kids were uncommon. They were human beings. They showed me more than I ever taught them. But I got caught up on what I talk about is external factors. My attitude got negative. It wasn't positive. And I let my peers get into my head about, you won too much, coach. I don't give a shit about you. You won too much. Now, if I'd have stayed when I was happy and I could talk about, If I had stayed with just me, what I was doing, painting rooms, building, getting Miller Lite as a sponsor, getting a Fiesta at Olu, man, I was cooking before games. I was giving everything I had. Had nothing to do with Jack. It was the same environment for 3 years. I mean, I was brought in about being too hard on kids and all the time by Jack, but it didn't bother me as much. That bothered me. That I really, from loyalty, these kids have done. I have killed them for 3 years, and they have done raised this school up, and all the and money's coming in. They deserve scholarships where I've talked to their parents, and that's what it really came down to for me. I told their parents by their 4th year, I'll take care of you. And now you're making me decide to go raise more money. So that 4th year in the summer, I raised so much money, every dollar I raised made me more mad and got my focus off the task at hand. So, I walked away. I probably should have walked away this summer. In the 5th year, that was the peak of I was the best coach in the state of Texas at one point, at college. I walked away. So what did I do that was very common? I got a job at Public Works. I was cleaning toilets a week after started my 5th year. I was digging ditches at 3 degrees. I liked it. I didn't have to think about anything. There was no thoughts. I got up at 6. I was it. But there was more to me. I knew that. There was more about me. But it was easy. I didn't have to think about any success or failure, but people thought about what happened in Olu. They weren't in any meetings. They didn't know. You guys know more right now than they ever knew. Than most college people around it know. It came down to that. I let external things. It wasn't Jack. It wasn't Bahia. Was already bringing me in for being too hard. Those kids. So I was in Public Works and Landscaping. I took a year of severance. They paid me for a year. This is where it gets a little tough. I get emotional. I'm emotional, good and bad. So we lost our home. And I'm cleaning toilets. And it's not that, but even when I was cleaning toilets, I should just tell you part of my story here, Joe, but there was a kid there that his dad beat him down, his dad beat him down, his dad beat him down, and he loved the guitar. And I heard him playing one day under a tree, and I said, "You need to play that guitar, son. You need to go play that guitar." What is it? Well, my dad said, I said, "Your dad ain't around anymore to tell you you can't do it. Get your, and that's just a side story. That's just, I was still coaching somehow, even when I was digging ditches. I was finding a way to coach and deal with people. That's right. But I was going to hide. I told myself I was never walking in the gym again. I was never coaching kids again the way it did. And part of it, let me make sure you understand, is I just didn't want to be rejected or felt again what people thought. I didn't really fail. Kids did amazing things. First generation kids from Louisiana graduated that nobody wanted. Kids from the city of San Antonio that wasn't good enough won 2 championships. Almost won a national title. We lost in overtime to that LA team that was loaded by a point. By missed free throws. We didn't beat ourselves. That was those things were all great. I didn't focus on that when I left though. What do you think I was focused on? It's being poor, pitiful me. It's not fair. And that's not fair. Life ain't fair. But I lost a home. I lost a 20-year career. That's what it felt like at the time. And then here's the hard part. And this is probably 6 weeks after I left. And then I was carrying a casket with my 19-year-old nephew in it. And I put my nephew in the ground. My brother's an FBI agent. I do have a father. He was a helicopter pilot that passed away in Vietnam. And so I'm proud of him. I talk about him. I learned about him. My brother's the one that raised me. I was the outgoing trouble. Basketball got me through life. But I raised him. I looked down at my 19-year-old nephew, and my brother, his kids go to bed at 8. I mean, they have the perfect house, and I barbecue, and I have fun. And I have 3 kids, and my nephew's death in my heart, he got removed from sports, had everything to do with external factors. He worried so much, and that's what I was doing. I was cleaning toilets. I didn't want to ever deal with external factors again until I buried my nephew. And I was there, but that tragedy kind of got me back into wanting to help kids somehow. Got me on a spiritual walk. Got me on kind of figuring out life, kind of doing life coaching, studying leadership, studying what can I do to help. How can I get myself back out of this toilet? I can't do nothing for my brother. That's life. That's CA service stuff. But I add that because from that to over 6 months, those 3 things happen. Now, it's all relative. I look at a man like this, And I had to study what perspective meant. My old uncles and wise people would say perspective. Perspective, attitude of gratitude and perspective. So I got into my church when I started doing things. I started realizing some things. There was an itch inside of me. Didn't know what I was going to do. But that told me, when I started this deal today, said it ain't Monday, it's today. Now I don't know what your paths are. I have no clue what your journey's been. But if you don't believe that, if you don't think today that you can do something good or bad, then you are nuts. Nuts. I don't care what success you had. That was a perfect family. It wasn't a broken home. My brother, if we both walked into him, you would look at him and say, he's an FBI, one of the top FBI agents in the country. I mean, he has been always on cue, how he raises kids. It doesn't matter. You can't wrap your brain around certain things. Just like me raising all that money didn't matter. I was supposed to be doing that. That was making me happy. So, I hid for 2 years. I was common. I landscaped. I hid. And then I decided, my brother, because of the tragedy, said, we have one more nephew. I got my other nephew, Zach. I got 3 kids. So we're a close family. We're tight. We're Polacks. You can probably see we're Polish people. So we're anxious. We're loving. We're excited. We're good. So what we did was he said, I can't do it this summer. And I said, I'm never going to go in the gym again. I can't do it. I got the select team. My nephew has 1 more year left. Can you come help? I mean, the game I thought was my best ally. It became my worst enemy towards the end. But I was still helping kids. Like I said, the guy at the guitar at the Public Works, he said, can you help? I said, absolutely. We had a golf tournament. We did some things. I was good at that kind of stuff. I'm the one that always has to keep a positive outlook around the family because they look for that, And I said, absolutely. So I got back in there just to help my brother with my nephew. That's when I started the select ball. And I started looking around at all these kids, including my nephew who passed away, Reagan kid. I was like, man, these kids on this social media, they can hear 1,000 times how good they are and 1,000 times how bad they are. And I said, that is not reality. I said, it's part of life now, but it's not really what should make or break the kids. So I'm gonna go in there and coach like I used to see what happens. But I was kind of studying it. So I spent a summer. That's what got me back on the court. I spent a summer helping my brother select ball. I was this close. I can't make this up. I was this close. What time have to be done, Joe? Because I could go on. Okay, I'll get out here before 9. I was this close to turning it in, calling a shot, and I was at Buc-ee's with a 12-pack of beer, about to go to the river, soak my sorrows, because I was going to call Elliott Electric, who offered me a big job, a good job. I have 3 kids. We were struggling with that. My severance was over. This wasn't getting it done. A big job, a good job. I knew I had more in me. I knew what I was capable of by choice. And what happened was, I'm sitting at Buc-ee's. I kid you not. I'm getting my 12 because I don't really want to work for Elliott the rest of my life. I know that. Because I'm just that kind of person. I just don't want to do it. I got to do something that feels right. So I'm at Elliott with my freaking beer, my phone, about to call Elliott when I hear, Coach B. I haven't seen him since my first year in Old. A big black kid who was basically an orphan in deep South Louisiana, who a friend of mine said, take him, you can help him. I don't have your personality. I said, I don't want no troubled kids this first year. I'll take a troubled kid my second year when I create a culture. And I with him. He was the only kid I took. And he did great. And he placed his big old arms, the Louisiana arms around me. I remember, the reason I'm about to call Elliott. It ain't a good day for me. I got to go make some money now. I can't hide. But Elliott's in my heart, but I got to take it. It's the only thing offered right there. But, so Big Porter said, Coach, you changed my life, man. What are you doing here? I said, I live here, boy. I live right down the road. You don't remember all the road trips y'all picked me up at this Buc-ee's and get on the bus? He said, I want you to know, Coach, look, I'm just proud as can be. First generation, nobody, that's the hardest thing. That's harder than winning games. I used to tell those kids that behind closed doors. That's what people, I wasn't an XML guy. And he said, I'm in law school, man. I'm 1 semester away from finish law school. And I said, because of what you taught me, because you gave me that chance. I said, Porter, It ain't because of me, it's because of you. You made those choices to be different than anybody else in your family. It's a choice. Now, you just helped me out for it. I was about to take a shitty job that I didn't want, and now I'm about to go back to school. So I went back to school, got certified, and that became my journey of what I'm going to talk about with Uncommon. I got certified in the public school system. And what I was witnessing during that deal was a bunch of teachers teaching subjects they didn't like, so the kids weren't as interested, and they're not interested. They got a STAR test and stuff, and there wasn't a lot of passion either way. And so I was like, walking through the halls, and I was just observing. I was working in a behavior unit at Comal County and trying to help those kids. People say, I know. In fact, my principal, this will tell you, my principal said, Russ, would you quit trying to change the whole behavior unit world in 1 week? Would you quit coming to me just do? I said, I can't do that. I said, these kids, they ain't as bad as they're acting. I used to act bad until my uncle got a hold of me. My uncle coached me in high school. Coach Bob was, he settled it really quick. So I had choices to make too. I had to run upstairs and all that. So, but I was in the behavior unit, got certified. TMI started calling. The most important thing about TMI, because I didn't really want to teach and all that. Not to say I wouldn't. I just, if I was going to teach, I wanted to teach life skills or health or something I was passionate about. I don't think it's fair to kids to teach math just because you get a math certification. But we complained. And I also observed, which we all want. Now, I am blessed to have Mr. Granados and the families I had this summer. I didn't know if there was any of them out there still. So they taught me it's still, they created this dream for me a little bit, because I saw a lot of parents who wanted their kids to be resilient, but were involved heavily every time. Unlike my years and what I saw, students are in adversity. And that was allowed from the top down. But we all want that, but we also are part of the problem of creating it. So that's why I wasn't a popular time in coaching with my tough methods. But I cared about changing lives. So what happened was, after I was in the behavior unit, TMI started calling. TMI's most appealing thing, my son, I had some cousins go there. It's a great school academically. I knew they'd be challenged. It's not a great school athletically. I don't have great athletes. I don't have an athletic period. But I thought it was, for some reason, it was the only job. I could lie to y'all just like those kids and say, I had 4 or 5 public school interviews that summer and nobody hired me. They always asked about Luke. I thought you did great things over there. But your brain, if you hear 20 positive things and 2 bad things, you're probably going to think about, for whatever reason, you got to focus on how to focus on the good things. So I started focusing on, when everybody was turning me down to jobs, after I got certified and TMI wanted me, I started focusing on, I read every kid's text. I had about 45, 50 texts from ex-college players about weddings, coming to my wedding and stuff. That was coaching. And we had something there. I said, and I started thinking they couldn't take that away. That's the first time we did accomplish this. I started focusing on the positives again. And I started focusing on what I wanted to do. TMI gave me a chance to coach again. But TMI's biggest thing was it gave me a chance to start what I wanted to do in my heart, which was uncommon. And I'm going to go over 4 or 5 things that are uncommon nowadays. And I think this does go, I appreciate Mr. Granado, it does go with life, marriage, or anything. That's my story behind how I got to Uncommon Basketball. I didn't have a vision. I don't have a business degree. I didn't have a business plan. I knew my son. I watched him for 2 or 3 years with Select Ball, and I watched teachers, and all they did was, after games, they allowed them, they had 1 practice a week. And this could go to anything, and they practiced in plays. No kids had to go hard. No kids had to go through any conflict. And then after every game with my son, I didn't want him in that environment, they would start talking about habits. You got it. And it's been 30 minutes about habits. And they played 300 games, but the wrong way. And I said, I got to change this. I got to change this for kids like my nephew, for kids like my son. There's got to be a market of kids. Oh, Lou, remember, it's not that long ago. There's got to be a market of people that still believe in you've got to go through some adversity and learn the steps and process how to be successful when things are tough. And so I started Uncommon Basketball. I didn't really know what I was going to do. I had 7 kids forever. I was trained. I talked to Gavin on the phone. He's the quietest, nice. Gavin it doesn't matter what personality you are. You can be loud, whatever. It's just about habits. All I did this summer was all we focused on was the process. what always led to success. My 20 years of losing and winning, building teams and seeing what winners look like and losers look like. So he said the call to action. I want to tell you what winners and losers look like. I think sports, life, whatever. In my opinion. First thing winners do is they focus on the process. Now, it's good to learn from the past. That's about it. The future, when I say focus on the process, I have a few things here to make sure you understand. You have to have some goals and outcomes, but if you're constantly on that goal when you get to be number one and you forget the process, you're going to start losing. You're not going to have as much fun. You're going to start losing some passion, some feeling. But the process, every day to be successful. Every day, what are you really doing? And the champion, I used to train with Leha when I was coaching, man. That was my best outlet. Telling me, you can't lie to the guy in the mirror, coach. You got to get your ass back up off the mat. Go see if that mirror lies to you. He was right. I was telling him all these correct things during that time of my life. Still training, still going by myself in the morning. The mirror won't lie to you, son. What are you doing? So I'm a boxing fan because there ain't no, you better be prepared in boxing. You can't blame nobody in boxing. So when you're dealing with a team sport, I see kids, it's easy, especially when they're hearing above them, the adults that are telling them all these damn excuses of these common traits. Oh, this guy's crazy. That's what they say about me. That guy's crazy. I would play for him. He's hard. Yeah, any kid that plays, they start to fresh. I get this. I'm benefiting from this. You know, it's just that simple. But the process helps you from what I talked to you about. The process helps you from getting too low and getting too high. Getting too low and getting too high. And you don't worry about your opponents. I don't know what business y'all are in. Somebody may have to make more money than y'all right now. But what are you doing every day to make your situation better? I think that transcends across the board. What do you do to make your situation better? Because if you look at another team, it's good to say, okay, there's a market like this, but if you focus on that, then you're eventually going to lose people around you, lose sight, and you start getting asked. Like in other words, in basketball, if I talked about the ranking in front of their names, like my kids would say, we'll play hard, but we can't beat them. If there's a crappy team, and I talk about their record, we have it easy. That's human nature. And the best championship teams had a consistent process. So they won that championship. And they started up with a consistent process. And no matter, they played consistently to their best potential. Does that make sense? They didn't look at this opponent, play hard at this opponent. But I had to drill them in that every day. I can't go over every practice and every situation. It was drilled every day as a leader of what we got to do. And then this is one of my favorite ones. And Mr. Ralph's player is skill versus will. Everybody has a talent and gift in here. Everybody does. There's a skill. You got some skills. My son's a good shooter. He can't dribble worth a dime. He's slow like his dad. So you better work on those to get better. But he's a really natural shooter. That's a skill. You just have to work on your skills. You have to continue to. Those are easy. But here's the key for the difference between the champion's mindset, somebody who's winning in business, winning in marriage, winning in life, is the willpower. Those 2 years, you know how many times I wanted to get divorced? It wasn't my wife's fault. I tell people, my Bible study guy who saved, it was another one that saved my life, who helped me through a hard time, said, man, my wife was the worst when I was 38. She was a terrible wife for 2 years when I got fired from my favorite job. So I'm like, you're right, Steve. You got me humble again. I got nothing to do with my wife. I better figure out some crap. I'm going back to work. You're right. So, but willpower is the most strongest thing for me. I've always been a willpower guy. See, I test their will. I test every team's will, but I coach every kid's will, because you can have all the skills in the world, talents. God makes people tall, short, whatever. But if you don't have willpower, you're going to stay. Your life right now, man. You only get one chance at this. We all leave this place. We don't get enough. We don't reset. That's a fact in life. We're not coming back. We all leave this place at some point. So my deal is willpower is your choice. I teach kids. Don't tell me. And give you an example. If you're out of condition and you're blaming and moping around and you're not in shape to play hard, and you had a program and I did my part like you do with an employee, and you give them all the tools to be successful. In basketball, in this trans, if you're not in shape, I'm not going to feel sorry for you. I should think your opponents care. Go out and run at night. Quit coming to this gym with that demeanor and all that, the world against you. Go get in shape. Sink them. Go get in shape. Willpower. You got skills, son, but you ain't doing anything to maximize your potential. So I actually held my word up there. Some coaches will play the best players because they get 20 points. I don't believe in that. I want to be the very best we can be with each kid, each person. That means more. The wins will come. So willpower, to me, I tell them all the time, you can choose that today when y'all leave this meeting. Today. If you got a skill like a guitar, you got to keep working on it. Every day. Or you'll get a little rusty. Willpower, you can choose today. You drive off to the door today. It's a one-day choice. And I chose both ways. I'm not perfect, right? I chose both ways. I just learned so much from kids and the power of willpower. When people tell you what you can and can't do. Willpower is so powerful. You hear what motivation? Willpower. What are you doing when things are not going your way? What's your willpower like? In sports, it's pretty simple. In life, it's a little bit tougher. But that is still the key. Y'all all have talents that I don't know about. And then, of course, we've talked about this because I've had it. External factors have nothing to do with your success. I learned that the hard way, and it's also got me to this big vision of building off uncommon and all that. Uncommon, external factors are going to be there. Everybody understands that, right? External factors are going to be there. Bad boss, they're going to be there every day of your life. Not too good or too bad. You feel good when somebody tells you how great you look and you're doing a great job, don't you? That should last for a minute. And then you should internally always work on what keeps you balanced. Because that makes you feel good in about 10 minutes and life starts to come back. External factors that are bad. And again, if I had one more talk with my nephew, that's what I talk about. The last thing I said 3 days before I went to pick him up at the house and he passed, I said, nobody gives a shit if you play basketball, son. You're the best kid. You care for your nephews. Quit sitting in the corner over here worried about what everybody thinks. We love you. That's the last words. And I told my brother, no more fights with him. I'll pick him up like my uncles did me because I was the trouble one. I didn't have a father in the house. My mom would always talk about it, so I learned some things the hard way too. But external factors had nothing to do with Olu. They've had nothing to do with my failures or my successes. I am the solution. I have to write stuff on my phone 4 times a day. It pops up. I am the solution. Okay, so I never forget. I put stuff on my phone. I am the solution. So I want to start blaming you. I am the solution. What am I worried about right now? Because I'm naturally worried, anxious, and so I got to practice it. But I also, different with the good Lord, I thank Him now for how He made me. I used to get, from all this conflict, whatever, but now I thank Him. Attitude of gratitude. It's also helpful, spiritually. But and then attitude. Attitude is another big one. And everybody's heard these words before, positive, negative. I'm just trying to put it in a different spin. You don't really have an attitude unless you're doing something you don't like. That's when your attitude really comes into play. That's it. If I go to the beach, you think I love the beach. If I hesitate to bring my muggy because it's got stickers from all these board shops. I'm not a surfer, but I just collect stickers from board shops for some reason. But if I go to the beach, I don't have a bad attitude. There ain't no testing of my attitude. When I was digging ditches, my attitude was tested. When I was burying my nephew. So if I'm looking at a kid who can't run a damn line with a ball in his hand, get out. I ain't popular sometimes, but I'm going to make a difference. Hey, it's a ball. If you can't do this, your life's going to kick your ass. Your mom and dad, and I always tell them, your mom and dad, they love you unconditionally. If you want to feel good, call your mom more than your dad. And she'll say, oh, you're getting grown. I said, guess what, boys? When I feel bad, I call my mommy too. She's not in this practice. And she'll say, you're the greatest coach. You're the best ever. I said, how does she know if I'm the best? How does she know if this practice is worth the dime? So you can call you. So, that these kids nowadays, so external factors, attitude only comes into play when you're doing something you don't like. With your job, with your marriage, you have to be the bigger person. That's when attitude comes into play. Now you can have a choice. And attitude is like willpower, a choice. But only is tested when you're doing stuff, in my opinion, you don't like. That's the only time in my teams when we have a 3-game losing streak. What's your attitude then? Watch every kid when they're beating a team that they're better than. They look good. Whatever. 3-game losing streak and a coach is pulling you up at 6 in the morning, how do you walk in that gym? I remind our kid, no, we ain't gonna walk in there like victims. I kick them right back out. The popper, not popper. Why am I saying that? Because I've seen kids walk back in. And I've heard a bunch of my peers who have bigger jobs than me. So I was a little bit embarrassed that y'all make probably more money than I do. But I stick to some things I want to do in life because I only get one chance at it. I mean, I'm going to do concessions after this, Joe. A snack run, just a bit before TMI, but I'm all right. I'm going to do the best snack run ever. Stack the shit out of the crackers. So, but attitude only comes into play. And remember that when you're doing something, your boss, you don't like to type, you don't like to computer, you don't like to talk to people on the phone, you're better at listen, whatever. That's when you have to choose your attitude. That'll help you day. And I already waste 3 days. And marriage, man, trust me, me and my wife are polar opposites. We've been through our ups and downs. Without a doubt, if she was here, like I said, it'd be good and bad. I love her to death. We've been together 20 years, 3. But when things are bad, it's so stupid because we know these things as human beings. When I choose the better attitude and choose to be the one, I feel better immediately helping her. But yet I want to spend 5 days in the, same thing with sport. I mean, if I choose to go in the weight room and lift when we're not strong enough, it's a choice. It ain't fun to get in condition. It's fun to hit the game winner. There's a process involved. That's what those kids did this summer. That's what Joe witnessed. That's what really got me in this knowing I'm going to build uncommon and better. And then finally, I want you to know common versus uncommon traits. We kind of hit on all of them. And common traits from a coaching perspective, which you can do it with employers or employees. Everybody's heard this. My coach has favorites. Yes, I have favorites. I'm with these kids every day. My favorite is the one that finishes first when shit gets tough. I tell parents that. Parents don't want to hear it. No, Johnny, I know it. When the guy who finishes first, I'm going to keep playing him. We may lose until I can get this guy that has more talent to do that. And then we'll really win. I'm not gonna lose. So, yes, I have favorites. I'm with them every day. The employees that you have employees, or you may be a leader or an employer, I don't know. If you leave at 5 and you're getting out of there and you're not very happy, you need to look at some of these things. Figure out how you can become happy in your current situation, or do something else. Do something else. Don't be scared. You only get one chance. Do it. Or, and I've had both employers that they leave right at 5. And then I have players that say, can I be in the gym for 2 more hours? Who do you think benefits? That's why I keep it simple. That employer moves up the ladder. He gets, I want to get that player becomes All-American. It's not a trick. It's not a big fancy formula. It's simple, but it's hard. It's simple to identify winners and losers and what you got to do. So all these common traits, instant gratification, we've already gone over it, complaining, sitting around, those are all common. The worst one was when I watched for 2 years select ball, and like I was telling Mr. Brown, hey, every time you got to play hard, you got to play harder, but they don't demand them to play hard to see how they'll respond. They don't demand it. So I said, I'm going to find some kids, even if there's 5 of them. That's the same way I felt about today, by the way. Joe called me, so we got 9 signed up. I said, I don't care if there's 9 or 900 when I speak. It ain't going to change me how I speak to people. It ain't going to change. If 9 people show up, man, if one person was under the tree, I was having a conversation with this man right now outside, it ain't going to change how I talk to him. I mean, I don't need 1,000 people to do my very best. People sometimes say, well, yeah, this and that. So, uncommon traits, today's age, don't ever believe it. Make sure you focus on some things. The willpower, there's no test in the world. There's not an ACT, there's not an SAT, there's no, you guys that are young in business over here, and you guys that are older and have been around and seen times of change, yada, yada. Quit saying that. Quit saying times of change. Go back to the youthful time when you're enthusiastic about what you did. Find some time to remember those times. Write them down. Say them out loud. Do those things. Be uncommon. Be uncommon in your approach and what you're doing. Because it's more meaningful. Just stay away from things like sitting around the office complaining about a coworker. What is that doing today? What does that do? It doesn't make you feel better. In fact, what I learned on my spiritual journey, and I've been there, those are the people hurting the most. How about go lift them up and risk them yelling at your ass? Because about 2 hours later, 2 days later, they'll say, man, that was me. And you'll be winning anyway. You don't think I had a lot of conflict with kids during those romance championships. It was daily. I had daily conflict. I had to walk away and say, please, Lord, let that kid make the right choice. They didn't always do it. Kids ran out the door. I didn't talk about all those kids. But I saw too many great things that just gave a choice in winning and losing. So, my last thing on my common traits is, I put it down there because I get to the tangent, like you guys know. What can I do better? I do that every day. What do I control? What can I do better? Marriage, life, but what do I control? Worrying is in there too when you say it. And let me give you a wise man's quote. So I always go quote. And I use this with kids. They go, if there's something you're worried, if you can do something about your worry, do it. What the hell are you worried about? There should never be worry in life, period. No concern. If you can do something about what you're worried about, do it. If you can't, let it go. What the hell are you worrying for? You're wasting your time. You're feeling bad. You're at the donut shop, drinking 2 coffee. If you can do something today, go do it. If not, just let it go. Have some fun. Enjoy the ride. Don't get out there. I mean, you got to sometimes fake it till you make it, but that's a pretty simple quote about control, which you can't control. Because we know it. I'm a human being. I learned this from the hard way. Trust me. I burnt my own self out trying to get that ring, which it wasn't worth it. Those kids were worth it. How can I help and serve? Remember that when somebody's down or mad or pissed in your office, they probably need your help. They probably need something. They probably need something, and it's harder for you because that's a human spirit. That's for anything. And understand the process is important, and when things get tough, get tougher. And then practice positive attitude in all situations, and embrace the hard time with your actions, not talk. That is what the uncommon philosophy is about. Now, I've dealt with this kind of crowd in business, but I have gone and spoke with groups that are about team building stuff. I have spoke with and did some life coaching when I was out. I did that, so I feel blessed. This may lead to 2 things for me, but this has always been in my heart. I've not been an X and O guy, so when Mr. Bernales asked me this whole journey of mine coming up to here, yesterday when I was kind of figuring out how to talk, and I didn't want to do too much right because it takes away from my heart, but I wanted to give to you guys. Instead of reading off a script, I just felt like, man, this journey brought me exactly here. Even if I didn't care who was going to be here. Just here. Every pitch I dug, every championship I cut, what we did this summer, I thought was just normal stuff. That's what I was used to doing, and I was doing it again. And a group of kids, by the end of the summer, not only his kid, those other teams were saying, hey, come play for us. He was good now. He wasn't good enough. Now, they didn't hear that about their kids. He wasn't good enough. You're starting with these cards. I said, I'm starting with kids that are willing to go through the process. I fired a guy because he was talking to kids in the hallway every day. I said, you don't get it. We talked 3 times. I don't want that. That's already out there. I want to change lives. And I've got kids that come through here. We may not win every tournament, but they're going to reach their maximum potential. Or they're going to look around at their opponents one day and say, oh, I can run. Coach taught me I can run. Ain't got nothing to do. I don't care if it's bad. I can run as fast as I want to run. I can play as hard as I want to run. May not be tall. So I want to teach that to kids. I want to bring that. And then I also want to do some things on the side, like I said, team building and stuff. So this is the first opportunity. I'll leave it for question and answer so we can get out of here. But if y'all need it, if y'all have anything, or do you want me to just shut this down, Joe? Because you look like you're about to tap it.
You guys, Coach V will stick around for any Q&A, and you guys can mix and mingle with him. Thank you for being here. Coach, thank you. Amazing journey. I can tell you, my son's quiet. Those of you who have met Gavin's about 6'4", athletic, super quiet, very, very passive. Coach scared the crap out of Gavin. and he didn't want to play for Coach B. And I wasn't sure either. So I called one of my former teammates, who Coach B happened to coach at McMurray State, and I asked him, just as a reference, I said, hey, what do you think about Coach B? He said, I'd let my kid play for him all day. He's going to work him, he's going to be hard on him, but I'll let him play for him all day. I said, okay. So, give Gavin the choice. Gavin says, no, Dad, I'm uncomfortable.
Yeah.
I don't like all those little things. He makes us clap all the time. I don't get it. So, the point that really made me realize that Russell had something different from other people in this business, in this industry, he didn't have to do this. Gavin's not a scholarship athlete in college. He was an 8th grader. Russell gets on the phone and spends 2.5 hours on the phone with my son, telling him, I'm going to make you uncomfortable. You're not going to like it. It's going to be terrible. It's going to suck. It's going to be miserable. But by the end of it, I promise you, you're going to be better. And I'm never going to let you down. And he followed through on that commitment. So Coach B, thank you for that. Thank you for being here today. And he'll be here to answer any questions you guys have. Thank you.